Well, I'm about to pass out of the room into a space, and I feel, know words. Wait. I'm like, okay, I'll wait. I'm good. And the voice said, they said, whoever they are, you have a choice. If you promise to do what you promise to do, then you can go back because your children need you. It's very important. You know, the world needs you, and we need you to do this. And I'm like, what?
Wow,
And they
yeah.
literally said, heal the people and tell the truth.
Okay.
They said, you have to do what you promised to do, and it's heal the people and tell the truth. And I'm like, what does that mean? Why does God always speak so cryptically?
Welcome to the Spiritual Forum, everyone. I'm so glad you're here. I'm very excited to introduce you to my guest. I just want to remind you that I do send out a weekly newsletter, and there's lots of good stuff in there, including the most recent episode, also some segments from prior episodes, spiritual truth, some affirmations, and my own reflections on the podcast that I just published. So if you want to subscribe to that, you can go to thespiritualforum.org and just subscribe to the newsletter. And I just really appreciate everyone who joins us every week. I just know that every single podcast we do is a message of hope, inspiration, and awakening, and that it touches the hearts of somebody out there. And today it might be you. My guest today is Sally Reid. And she is an empowerment coach for highly sensitive persons, and she's the creator of the BLISS system of quantum alignment. After experiencing 2 near-death experiences, Sally unlocked extraordinary psychic abilities that allow her to perceive and manipulate the energy patterns that shape reality. Over the past 14 years, she has helped thousands of people to let go of autoimmune problems, business challenges, and behavior and emotional issues. And apparently this can be done quite quickly, which I'm really interested in learning more about during our conversation. So rather than get into more of your bio, Sally, I'm going to just welcome you and let you talk about yourself in just a minute. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Carol.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn more about you. I've watched some of your TikTok videos, and I've been on your website, and I've listened to at least one of your other podcasts. And there's so much about your life that's interesting. And I know people are always really interested in near-death experiences. So maybe that would be a good place to start, that you can share that with us and how that's impacted your ability to do the work that you do today.
I can definitely say that it is 100% laid at the feet of not one, but two. And I also want to say that it has given me such a relaxed view of transitioning. You know, so many people are terrified to die, and that's the one thing that I can share, is that dying is one of the simplest, most beautiful things you could possibly do. I mean, it's harder to live than it is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be afraid of death if I were someone fearing death.
I think that is so interesting, and I think that's why people are so comforted by NDEs. I think it really helps people to get that it is a transition. And I mean, who knows? Maybe birth was more traumatic than death.
It was. That is also an interesting side effect of having transitioned twice. It expanded my ability to remember things and remember how hard it is. The pressure is so hard. And not everybody is born, vaginally. Some people are born via C-section. Maybe they don't feel the pressure as much, but it's that pressure. It's hard work to be born.
So interesting, because I think it certainly prepares us for the pressure that's out here. The world that's out here is not necessarily so comforting. It's challenging, and so maybe that pressure is God's way, Spirit's way of saying, okay, get ready.
It definitely is. It's a lot, and everybody has a different experience, just like everybody has a different relationship with spirit, and it's very individual. And so I wouldn't begin to speak about my experience being the same of anybody else's. But I can say that the second transition, the one when you get to leave this dimension, is much more pleasant. It's actually quite enjoyable and fun. It really is.
Could you tell us a little bit about, do you have memories and experiences of your experiences kind of beyond the veil before you came back?
Yes. Yes, the first one I was very young. I was under the age of 3. And I died on the operating table because of, a mistake of anesthesia, which is not uncommon with little children. And it was very classic, where you float above and you look and you see, and then you feel being pulled by the light. The light is pulling you. It's almost like and other people have probably mentioned that. It's like I am going here. And the room, the golden room, with my grandmother, who I had not met, who had passed before I was born, and the other relatives were there. And this is, every single person says this, the feeling of peace, of pure, unadorned connection and peace. Everybody says that.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have this absolute feeling of connectedness. And that's literally what we're all looking for on this earth, is feeling truly connected to another human being and to all that is, to spirit. And so you get that, in 1001, 1002, here's your ticket. You get to go home. It's really, really nice. It is. And also, everybody says this very same thing. And this happened in the first one, is where when whoever it is informs you that you can't stay and you have to go back, you have this deep resistance. And I was like a little girl, and I was like crying. I mean, I did the full-on 3-year-old thing where I just don't want to. And next thing you know, you wake up and you're back in your body. And of course, nobody believed me after I told my story, but that was back in the very, I think it was 1960. I mean, it was a long time ago, or 61. So nobody talked about that. Nowadays, a child would be like, oh my gosh, let's get them on,
put them on YouTube.
Yes, let's get them somewhere. Let's put them on the Today Show, whatever.
Let's monetize them.
Yes, let's do that. But I did, interestingly enough, the things that I saw when I died the first time, some of them were fairly prophetic. Like there was a house outside the window of this room. And that was a house I later moved into in the 70s. And, it was almost like a prophecy around me, because I couldn't go out of the room. They wouldn't let me go out of the room. A lot of people talk about being able to go all the way out of the room, and then somebody yanks them back into physical, because it was literally their time to die. But it wasn't my time to die. And so I never got out of the room.
And the room
But
is where the room is where your soul is? Is that what you're talking about? You're not talking about the operating room.
No, the room was, I'm going to call it, okay, so you're up, you go up, and then you get greeted by your angels and spirits and relatives and all this stuff. It's that room.
Okay.
It's that place. And I'm only calling it a room because I was a child, and that was the only reference point I had.
Got it. Yeah.
Because as a 3-year-old, your interpretation is a little...
Sure. Yeah.
It's a little different. Yeah.
Well, and as a 3-year-old, I think also, that this is the time where you have imagination. I mean, or your imagination is just starting to imaginary friends, and maybe you're a little young for that, but I could see why after that people would think, wow, you're just kind of making this up, or this is an interesting story, Sally, but we're in reality here.
It's
That's
true.
not what happens.
It's true. They didn't believe me at all. Yeah. There was one person who did believe me, and it was the nurse in the operating room, because she saw that I had died. I mean, the doctors knew I had died, and the nurses and the anesthesiologist, they all knew I had died. And the franticness that they were trying to get me back to life was, I'm going to say, awesome. They were terrified. I could feel that. That's another thing everybody notices. When you're out of your body, you literally feel everybody else's feelings. They were truly terrified. And evidently, they had not shared that information with my mother or
Oh
my
gosh.
father.
Okay.
And so, of course, they didn't believe me. And my parents went poo, poo, poo.
Yeah.
So, and, back then, there were a lot of things just let slip that didn't get talked about. People talk about this day and age being so horrible. No, we just have a lot more information. They didn't talk about things back in the 60s.
Right. Yes. And I remember that vividly too. But also a 3-year-old, I'm thinking about what do I remember as a 3-year-old? I didn't have a near-death experience, but surely I would have remembered. But 3 is also kind of like most people don't have vivid memories of when they were 3. And so I could see how that also people might second guess what you're talking about because how many people remember things when they're 3?
Most people don't. I do. And I think it might be a side effect
Uh-huh.
because I remember the moment when language turned on in my head, when the turned into, "Hi, honey, how are you today?"
Okay.
And it was around 6.5 or 7 months. And I also remember learning how to walk. I could actually teach somebody how to walk based on what I remember learning how to walk. Because the first thing a baby has to do is get their feet flat. Because they're all over the place. So the first thing you have to do is figure out how to get your feet like this, get them down, and then the next thing you have to do is learn how to bear weight on them. And you do that, but you see people, the baby people, figuring it out, trying to get their feet underneath them all the time. There's like, oh, there they are, because you'll see them standing up and their feet are doing everywhere, and you're holding them up. But that's what happens.
You could write a book on how to learn how to walk for babies.
Of course, a baby already knows, and I watched my own son do this and my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's
It's
so
the same
interesting.
thing. I laughed when I watched them.
Yeah. And some people do have really vivid memories when they're younger. I talk to a lot of, I shouldn't say I talk to a lot of, I've talked to a few people who have experienced extreme trauma. And they have very, very vivid photographic memories of things that happened to them as babies and toddlers. And there's something about, I think, when there's some sort of,
that, yeah,
a break in awareness or something that causes you to like really, really log that memory. And I think those memories
the death may have helped.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think all of us have those memories. It's like we just don't know where they are. We can't really access them, and you're able to go to the library and pull it off the shelf, and here it is. But the rest of us could if we knew how to get to the right bookshelf or whatever. So, well, let's talk about the second NDE. Yeah, and let's talk about what changed in you out of this, and did you notice anything that changed?
It was a lot. One of the things that truly, it terrified me. I mean, it was like, oh no, now I'm fully accountable to God.
Oh,
that was the result of that one. Is like, oh my goodness, I believe I have just signed a contract with God. I made a promise to God. Now what do I do? So it really was kind of now I have to start living on purpose. Now I have to really step up. Now I have to do that. That was the outcome of that one. But the circumstances around them were truly miraculous. And, regardless of what happened during, but yes, it was very interesting what happened during, it was the actual circumstances, the impossibility of the circumstances. That's what also scared me. It was April 15th, 1999, just after noon, Eastern Standard Time. And I was a horse trainer. I loved horses. And at the time I was training a horse. And this horse jumped out from underneath me, and I flipped over backwards, landed on my head, and broke my arm at the stable yard. And I was alone at the house. And before I lost consciousness, I heard a whisper in my ear to roll over and take my good arm and rest my forehead on it. It was a whisper. It was like, roll over, Sally. Because evidently my neck was cranked back when I hit the ground. And then for all intents and purposes, I laid there for the better part of an hour. And that's when the death experience happened. And I'm going to skip the death experience to show the miraculousness of it. I woke up, noticed I had a completely snapped arm. And ooh, that's not good. Oops. I'm alone. And so I went into the barn and grabbed a horse wrap and supported my arm with a horse wrap. And then I went back out and I got the horse. I collected him and took his tack off and put him in the stall. I even picked the stall with one arm. I cleaned the stall a little bit.
Interesting.
Now, remember, I had a broken neck and I didn't realize it, right? And so I went into the house and the children, as I was leaving the barn or going into the barn to get the horse wrap, I looked at the clock and I went, where did all that time go? Because when I had left my body and passed my body out, I looked at the clock, as I always, you have a habit, you do it. I looked at the clock and I noticed it was 1:47 p.m. But when I looked at the clock the second time, it was 2:30. And I'm like, where did the time go? Where did it go? My children are coming home from school. I have to get in the house, that kind of a thing.
Right.
And so I went in the house, did all them other things, set them with their snack, started cooking dinner. Yes. All I did to modify my arm is I took a wooden spoon and put the bowl of it in my hand and then rewrapped it with the horse wrap so I could function a little bit. Because I don't know if people know this. After you've broken something, it doesn't really start hurting till the next day. It hurts, but it isn't over. I've broken a few things. I deal with horses, right? It happens. It does. But when my husband finally came home from work and was able to take over duty with the children, they were, by the way, kindergarten and first grade age. They were babies, 5 and 6 years old. So they were little babies and they needed their mommy and they needed supervision. You don't just leave a house, with those children like that. And so when their father came home, I said, I need to go to the hospital and get this arm dealt with. Will you put them to bed? So I went to the hospital. And they said, yep, sure enough, you broke your arm. And I'm like, thank you. I knew this. And they said, does anything else hurt? And so they did an x-ray of my neck. And after, because I told them my neck hurts. And, oh, no, I said it was stiff. It was very stiff. I couldn't turn it. I couldn't move it. And he said, well, let's look at it. They did an x-ray. They started moving around really fast after they did the x-ray and whispering. That's always a bad sign when doctors start whispering. They put me in an MRI. And after that, they said, we want to do an MRI. We want to see if we can clean up some of the stuff. That's literally what they said, clean up some of the stuff in this x-ray, meaning they could see fit lines, broke stuff, and they couldn't, the way it was broken, they could not believe it. It was like the movie Death Becomes Her. Why is she standing here and breathing? She's supposed to be dead, kind of a thing.
Interesting.
So after they do the MRI, they start scratching their head and go, well, yeah, it really is broken. Well, it can't be broken that badly. I heard them say that. So they gave me a cervical collar. They put it on upside down and backwards. Go figure. And they sent me home with a professional wrap on this arm and a cervical collar on upside down and backwards. And they didn't bother to check to see if somebody was with me. So I drove myself home.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
This is where the miracle starts setting in. They told me to go to the doctor the next day, the orthopedic surgeon guy the next day. And so I made an appointment in the morning because it was too late then, because it was after 8:30 or 9 when I got home. And now remember, this happened at 1:47 p.m. The next day at about 3 in the afternoon, I finally get to see the doctor. I had taken the cervical collar off so I could take a shower and wash my hair, by the way. He looks at the x-ray or at the MRI and he gasps. He goes, and then he whips around and he says, is this yours? And I went, yeah. And he goes, that's impossible. That's impossible. I had 3 broken cervical vertebrae, C3, 4, and 5. And C4 was broken completely through the foramen, like broken.
Wow.
Like, and C5 was set in such a way, basically, I was supposed to have died instantly, and I didn't. And that's what scared me, because then days later I started remembering what happened, because it was a bit fuzzy. I did have, brain swelling as well, but it was truly a miracle. I mean, it was literally a miracle. And after you have been saved,
Yes.
miraculously, it applies such a, like, why me? Oh my gosh, now what do I,
For sure.
you can consider that. Yeah. And here's what happened when I died. Essentially, I'll skip to the very end, because you walk through the thing and you go and you're up there. Well, I'm about to pass out of the room into a space, and I feel no words. Wait. I'm like, okay, I'll wait. I'm good. And the voice said, they said, whoever they are, you have a choice. If you promise to do what you promise to do, then you can go back, because your children need you. It's very important. The world needs you, and we need you to do this. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
And they
yeah.
literally said, heal the people and tell the truth.
Okay.
They said, you have to do what you promised to do, and it's heal the people and tell the truth. And I'm like, what does that mean? Why does God always speak so cryptically? I mean, can somebody tell me, why can't God just spell it out?
It's never that way.
I promised. I was like, okay, I promised. And then whoosh, that's when and then we'll skip to me waking up and going, oh, look, I have a broken arm.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's what that gap in time was. And then later, it was an awesome responsibility to realize I signed a contract with God to heal the people and tell the truth.
It's huge.
And that's when I was able to begin tracking and seeing energy and being able to, because that's when I became the channel for the healing energy. That's when I became having the ability to say, well, this right here can shift. And if you want it to shift, we can shift it. But here's the interesting caveat. And this is what I bet is so frustrating. Humans have free will.
Mm.
Humans have free will. And so since humans have free will, you can shift it all you want, but the human can say, no, I'm not ready to have that shift, and can put it back.
Sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my job is to translate to that person and help that person discover a more aligned way. That's why I call it quantum alignment. I do it at the very tiniest level, at the energetic level, because if we don't talk about it, then it just becomes a change. And the human says, well, where did that go? Instead of, I want that back. They don't even know what that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let's pause for a second, because I want to go back, and then I'm going to kind of get into this quantum healing, because so after this experience, I mean, I think you can't possibly have the next day just be like a regular day. I'm going to make the kids lunches and go. And it's like suddenly everything's dramatically changed. It's like a cataclysmic ontological shock, I would think, that now I have to step into this purpose. I actually think we each have a purpose like that, maybe not exactly like yours, but something that if we really knew what it was, if we were really clear, we probably wouldn't just sit around and watch TV or check our phones quite as much. We'd be kind of at it. We'd be at whatever our contract with God is. So you're really blessed with being able to discern that and having that experience that this is it. I mean, it's very, very clear. You have a choice. You can stay here or go back and do what you said you'd do. I think that's so interesting. So I just want to get clear. So then your ability to see energy or manipulate energy and see these energy patterns, it started right there? Did it start right there? Or were you kind of like waiting for, I'm waiting to hear what's going to come next?
Oh, I was in full-on denial, and I fought with God loudly and
Okay.
vociferously, probably for
That
about
makes
6
sense.
months.
Yeah. That makes a lot of
Good
sense.
6 months,
Yeah.
maybe longer.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it was like 4 years later, I got, I did what I tried to do, what I was asked to do, and I would get, I, at one point, and don't ever say this to God. Don't say prove it to God. Don't.
I know.
Don't.
I get that. I do
Don't.
get that. There's something you just don't say.
It got proved. I was walking along, having a conversation, fighting and saying, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I know you said for me to do this, but these people are going to crucify me if I stand up and say that I can do this.
Uh-huh.
These people will crucify me because humans aren't supposed to be able to do this. So I'm not going to do it. And I said, how do I even know that you are God?
That's nice.
Prove
Have a
it.
conversation.
Yeah. And so 1001, 1002, all of a sudden my sight completely changed. And I was able to see the spirit and God in every living thing around me and see the energetic fields around them of the birds, the leaves, the plants, my dog. I could see the heart beating of the dog. I could see my own field. I was able to see, let's just put it was awe-inspiring and terrifying again. Because I was able to see the spirit, the love, the goodness, the part that everybody's been talking about. I could see it in real time, in real life. And other people have seen it too. And it was a lot. It was a lot for a real estate agent to take in.
For sure. Like suddenly reality is completely different. And what do you do with it? It's almost like it reminds
Colors.
me of like in the Bible where
Well,
they say you can't look upon the face of God. Like it's just almost too much. Yeah.
It is too much. I was looking into the God spirit in all things. And it was too much. Even now, when I get too close, it'll make me cry.
Yeah.
It's just too much.
Yeah. It's like, because I was reading in the book, I think it was Robert, I can't remember his name now. He wrote a book, He, She, and We. He talks about romantic love, and he talks about the female archetype and the male archetype in the other two books. And then We is about romantic love. And he talks about how, when we're in that state of infatuation, and it's like having our finger in an electrical outlet. Like it's so much energy. It's not sustainable. That's why relationships cannot sustain that in loveness, because it's too much energy. That's what it kind of reminds me of. It's like you can take it, but then it's like too much. I've got to come back to something that's, I got to come back to this body and the reality that we live in. But it sounds like you had that experience. Okay, so you say, God, prove it. One alligator, two alligator, boom, you've got this cinematic experience. And then now you know. Okay, so then you had to have...
And now I know that, yes.
Go ahead. Now you know that.
Oh, that, yes, you do have this ability. Yes, you are expected to step up. Yes, you did make a promise.
Right. Let me remind you.
And later on, this is even funnier. Even later on, this is just totally hilarious. I caught swine flu, and swine flu was quite deadly to people in middle age at that time. The kids were the older you were, the more deadly it was for you. And I knew it hit me hard, and I knew I had pneumonia. And I hear the voice again saying, "Get up. You're about to die. You need to go to the hospital." And I'm like, I don't want to do this because I promised. I don't want to work for you. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I can't do it. I'm too afraid. I don't want to do it. And this is real common in people when you get tapped on to do stuff. And you're like, I don't want to do it. And I said, I'm just going to lay here and die and prove it to you that I don't have to do what you tell me to do.
You
I'm
impetuous.
laughing because of the hubris of me. and God says, watch this. By the way, God's a jokester. It's hilarious. God says, watch this. 1001, 1002, my 16-year-old newly licensed driving daughter walks in my room to ask me a question and says, oh my God, mother, you are blue, throws me in the car and drives me to the hospital. And I'm like, okay, I give up. I'll do it.
I love that story.
And they put me on the ventilator and cleared my lungs and gave me all the treatment that you need,
Yeah. Very,
So
very
that's
interesting.
twice.
Yeah.
That's not once, that's twice.
Yeah. I love the story of resisting the call. I don't have, well, maybe I do. I have had to answer a call a couple times with God, spirit, source, energy, whatever people's name is it for. And I also resist, like, not me. And I think that same thing happened with Moses, probably Jesus, probably all the great masters. It's like, no, not me. Please, not me. And I think it's really part of just wrestling. It's that wrestling with spirit that we have to do in order to really step into the role, step into the purpose. It's like if we don't do that wrestling, then it's almost as if we're not really as committed as we need to be. And so I'm sure God's sitting there going like, okay, come on, let's start wrestling.
Let's get up. Just do it.
Yeah, ready for the resistance. Yeah. It kind of also reminds me of pick up your mat and walk. It's get up, do it. Yeah.
It is exactly that. And what's interesting though, and I can answer to this through personal experience, it's when you stop making it about you and when you stop making it, I can't do this, this isn't me, blah, blah, blah. The more you give yourself away and get out of the way and just allow, then everything becomes effortless, because I would say my ego has plummeted because I understand entirely that I'm simply a vessel walking around sharing this gift. It's certainly not me.
And that's very, very important. And I think when we get confused and think that it is me, and then our egos really start to kind of puff up around it, and that's where we start really missing the whole point. And the energy just gets really disrupted. Then you may still be able to be be gifted in a certain way, but then when it comes at you, that means people are following you and they think you're doing this, and then you're plagued with all these people who want you to do this for them, and that's not where you are.
Yeah, it's the most abhorrent feeling in the world to think that. I can't imagine how horrified Jesus was at the beginning, but when I first stepped up and said I could do this, I actually did get followers, would-be worshipers, and I put a stop to it in a 5 seconds, go away. I am not the droid you are looking for. Please.
Yeah.
Leave me alone if you get the Star Wars reference. It's just leave me alone. And everything about this gift, the less I think it's me, the better things work out.
Yeah. And that's so important. And it's one of the reasons when your marketing person approached me, I'm like, I don't know. Because I really do think that at times there are people who are out there energy healing, and it is about them. It is about them. And that's not who I want to talk to. I do want to talk to people like you who understand, it is not I, but the Father that does the work, to paraphrase that Bible verse. But yeah,
it's literally the same energy that Jesus used, and it was the Father.
Yeah.
And believe me, when I opened my mouth and said that, I thought they were going to crucify me. They, meaning the good people of the towns.
Right. Oh yeah.
Because that's not allowed.
No. In another era, you'd be burned at the stake.
I would have been, yes.
Yeah. Or maybe you had been. Who knows? In a past life.
Who does? I should ask God.
Yeah, in a very nice way. So
Yeah.
let's talk about the gift. Okay, let's talk about what it is that you do with helping to heal people or have people heal themselves of whatever issues that they're coming to you. First of all, I understand that lots of different kinds of people come to you. You've had maybe tens of thousands of people, and they've been, CEOs, business leaders, people in government, actors, all sorts of people. And that in itself could go to your head.
Doctors.
And doctors, yeah. Yeah, yeah. All
Doctors, I
sorts of kinds
love
of
that.
people.
I've had so many doctors.
Oh, I love that too. I hope they all come. And I'm very interested in
Yeah.
this gift. Exactly what is it? And is it something that like you alone are able to access? Is it something that you can teach people to access? Because I feel like we all
I've
have.
been asking about that.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, do you remember Jesus said, "You can do more things than I." He said that to his followers. And I believe that literally. It's not just I came here and I can heal people. You too can do this. And even greater works can you do. And so I know there are many among us, as you are one, walking among us and have these gifts. And it's like, okay, the rest of us have to be able to access this in some way. And maybe we have some blocks, or maybe that's not what we're called to do. But I just kind of wonder about whether it's something that you're able to teach people. But before we get into that, let's talk about what the gift is and exactly how you do this, to the extent that you can talk.
Well, one of the, I've been friends with it. I've had it for a hot little minute. So one of the things I have noticed that it is simply the ability to see what's actually there instead of what you believe is there.
Uh-huh.
So it is, and it's one of the hardest things we can do to ourselves because we're always lying to ourselves about something. Everybody does. I mean, if we don't have a good rationalization and a lie 15 times a day, we can't get through the day.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the first one. It always helps to have somebody else be your mirror, be your reflection. So that's the first clue to what I do. But the second one is I've been able to hear through the vibrations in somebody's voice and trace to the point where the vibration begins. I don't know how that happens, but the way I've been able to help people is first get yourself out of the way and know nothing. And that's almost impossible to do. So that's the very first thing to do is get yourself out of the way and know nothing, because it's never about you. So if the first minute you start having a judgment about somebody, or the first minute you start having a thought that this is it, then you're done for. So it has to be completely spirit guided. And that is the hardest cliff that everybody has to get through.
I hear you. I get that.
But it is entirely teachable once that happens. And there are several people who have attempted to teach it, but it's that first hurdle that's the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're super entrenched in your particular version of truth.
Mm-hmm. Like your religion or your upbringing.
Whatever it is.
Anything.
We all have a version of truth that we need to hold on to. We all have an ability to know what we're doing. Because imagine if we had to walk through life figuring it out all the time. Every time we came to a doorknob, you'd be like, what do I do with this thing again?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be miserable. So we have to have those knowingness. But there is, in me, what I do, I have a switch on and switch off. There's times when I have to human, and then there's times where I can be spirit. And the more I throw myself into not knowing and spirit, and the more amount of time I spend doing it, the harder it is for me to be a human.
Interesting.
It is interesting too, yes. If I were to fully throw myself into being like full spiritual guidance, then I would probably need a babysitter full time.
Yeah.
And then I wouldn't be human anymore.
Yeah.
And that, I want to keep the connection with human because I feel like part of my role is the translation between me and spirit. So I need to be a human to connect with humans.
Yeah. I mean, you're here in this body
Right?
on this plane for sure. Yeah. I mean, otherwise you would be
I mean,
on the other side. You're here. So,
yeah, and God worked so hard to keep it alive. My goodness.
right. Right, right.
My little angels must have been so tired holding my neck together.
Oh my gosh. It's an amazing story. It's an amazing story. So let's just say somebody comes to you with some affliction or some ailment. You mentioned you had the swine flu. Is that something you could have just cleared yourself?
Yes, I could have. I actually got COVID and I had it for about 12 hours, maybe 11, and cleared it
Mm-hmm.
and never got it again.
Right. So it doesn't have to be some huge affliction, but so people could come to you
You know
for
what
anything.
it has to be?
What does it have to be?
This is what I have begun to ask. Number one, is there a need for this human to have this problem? Is this a growth thing? That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, does a human actually, a lot of people say they want things to change, but they don't want them to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, it is not having a problem for this person.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second thing I ask. And then the third thing I ask, is it like, am I stealing from this person by taking this away? Because some people choose that journey, even though they don't know they've chosen their journey.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some people's souls do. So those are three very important questions. And another one is, a lot of people want me to come and work with their relationships. And the only person I can work with is you in relation to the other person, because the other person is sovereign too. So first we have to respect that all humans are sovereign. And then the next thing we have to do is, you are connected to all other humans already. So if there is a problem in your connection, it must be inside of you.
And so people have to come to that agreement, to that understanding. Yeah. Rather than, would you just fix my partner?
Bingo.
Yeah. Well, you know what it reminds me of? Again, we keep coming back to the Bible, but it reminds me of when Jesus asked the man at the well, not the well, at the pool of Bethesda, do you want to be healed? Is a key question because he had been there for decades and had never gotten himself into the pool. So really, do you want to be healed? It doesn't look like it. So he had to come to this place after so many years, to say yes. Because I would think that it sounds like you're able to do this. So you're able to find wherever the energy block is with somebody, but they have to have passed through so many doors to get to this point where you work with them, where you know that they actually are willing to release this condition or release this blockage.
Well,
because otherwise it'll keep coming back,
I kind of had
right?
an argument. Oh, yeah, it does come back. It does. In a different form. If that one's gone, then the next one, like, think about it this way. How many horrible guys have you dated, before you learned your thing that you were supposed to learn?
Yeah.
One of the things I was able to make a compromise, there were three things I was able to do a compromise. Number one, I want an off switch, and I got that. I want it off. I don't want to know things wherever I go. I don't want to know. It's not my business. It's their business. So I got the off switch. But the number two is, I want a way to give people like a roadmap or like a lesson plan or something like that. Even if they're not ready, they at least need to know, they need a flashlight to get out of the cave. And so I was able to do that. That was an agreement. But the final thing is, I set the intention, like I said, that only people that I could help would be attracted. Only people that need that shift that they can't do themselves. Because I'm all about empowerment, right? I want to give you the keys to your own car.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to be your chauffeur. I don't want to be the maid. We all have us, in us, this divine power in nature. It was given to us the moment we took our first breath. End of story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And many of us then were immediately trained how helpless and useless we are and how dependent. You see? So it's that we're working with.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I could see that we live in a society where people want fast cures. They want to be able to abuse their bodies or have whatever happens to them, taking in drugs, chemicals, not sleeping, stress, and all that kind of stuff. And then, will somebody just clear this from me? So I got a hangover. I just need somebody to fix this for me so I can make it through the day, and not have that accountability that I actually have to change some of my behaviors. I have to kind of change who I am and what I'm doing, how I'm treating my body. And we live in a society that just wants to pop the pill or take some sort of treatment to just clear all this for us. And I would think that people would be attracted to you to just clear all this for them.
And I say no.
Yeah.
I do. That's one of the first things I do when I meet with people. If somebody wants to meet with me and they want it because it's easy and fast, I'll look at you and say, oops, no soup for you, to use an old reference.
Right.
No, I would give them, here's what needs to change. Boom, boom, and boom.
Yeah.
These things need to change, and you have the power to change them. I am not going to make your hangover go away. But I can help you overcome your addiction to alcohol if that's what you truly are looking for.
Because there's something under that. Yeah.
Because we can find the root. We can find the problem. Another thing is, and this is what a lot of people who begin, their first journey to be a helper, they want to go in and help people without being asked. And that's something that needs to be talked about too. Is this something they really want?
Yeah.
Or are they just venting? A lot of people just want to vent.
What about people who have experienced great trauma? Because I think there's a whole school of thought that we need to go back and feel our feelings and find those trauma points and experience the feelings and to let it go. But it sounds like you do something different than that.
I actually do. First, you have to depend on the person. Every human has a different experience with feelings and color. And I've been specializing in highly sensitive people that literally have a genetic difference in the way they experience things. And that type of trauma help is difficult for a highly sensitive person because you do feel things so greatly. So the way I do things differently is I'll find that moment and take this. It's like rocks in a river. You know how like when there's rocks in a river and it causes the ripples, right? It'll cause a problem with the river and it'll cause a wave, a standing wave. So I'll look for the standing waves, look underneath for the rock, what it is. And it doesn't matter what it is. I want you to know it never matters what it is. It doesn't matter when it is. It doesn't matter. Well, it does matter when, but it doesn't matter what. It just matters that it is. Because in the world of spirit and in the world of quantum physics, it's either a one or a zero. It's an is or is not. And you can trace that back to the Bible too. It's either an is or an is not. It's not an in between. So I use my ability to channel the vibrations, and this is using inverted wave action, where you may have seen it, and when you go to the beach, where two waves of the same intensity hit each other, and all of a sudden there's no wave at all.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. And so I'll find that rock and do that. Just, whoops, boom, it's gone. It's just inverted and it's gone. And we don't have to talk about it. We don't have to feel about it. We just have to know where it is located in the body and when in time it became there. Because you can't heal anything other than right now. And if you go back to more quantum mechanics, time is always relative. Thank you, Einstein. But it's relative to where you stand. It is. So I will find that relative point where I'm standing in that time, and then it changes it. And that's where it gets weird and freaky. And I don't understand it. But I stopped trying.
Yeah, it sounds like you don't have to. But in the case of flipping the rock, if it does the rock stay unflipped or flipped on the other side, or can the rock, because of so many patterns ingrained in the person, flip itself back?
Well, that's the next thing, is you have to find all the patterns that got it there. You can't just flip the rock. You have to
Right,
find,
right.
you have to go
Yeah.
back and find all the patterns and find everything related and all the associations and all the emotions attached to it and all of that. So it's not just flipping a rock. The rock is the clue.
Mhm,
But
mhm,
yes, where did the wave go when the two waves hit? It became a no thing.
mhm,
It became a potential wave, not the actual wave anymore. And that's the best way to explain it visually, so people can
Interesting.
understand it.
Yeah, yeah. I think this idea of having the ability to have an off switch would be very important. If you didn't have an off switch, then you would be like overloading this experience. I think you'd be going through. Would you be able to just like see everything that's going on with everybody, but you're able to turn it off when you're in like as we're talking right now? It's got to be off because you're talking to me.
It got weird.
It got weird?
It got weird. Not gonna lie.
Okay.
It got weird.
Tell me more.
It got really weird. Whew. I started being able to see all times,
Mm-hmm.
like it was bad. I didn't like it. Like driving down the road and seeing a union procurement party. Like, no, please, no. I know this is the seat of the Civil War, but please, I don't want any of it. Like driving. I live outside of Nashville, near the Hermitage, which is Andrew Jackson's home. And Andrew Jackson had this failed. Well, it didn't fail. It was very successful, but it was the Trail of Tears. It was his party.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He did the Trail of Tears,
Mm-hmm.
which is where he took all the Cherokee Nation and put them in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
But he decided he wanted them to go past his house so we could see them.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a road that goes right past his house, and I was seeing all these souls. That got to be too much, too.
Okay.
Like, I don't
Okay.
want to see this time.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel these people's feelings. I don't
Yeah.
want to know. They're not, this is too much information.
Yeah.
And so that's why the off switch came on. You can imagine how that became uncomfortable.
Sure. I mean, that would be a burden. That would be a burden. Like you're trying to just live your life in this body and this time and this space time that you're in, and then suddenly there's no boundaries. But I would think also the people you would probably know how the O.J. Simpson case really went down. You would probably know. You would probably could be a crime solver. All those kinds of things. It sounds like that's not what you're interested in, but it sounds like you would be able to see all that. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. It's all about, and Jesus said this too. It's all about your point of view and where you come from. Jesus could have done, he could have done his day the winning lottery numbers, and it's point
Sure.
of view.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm not going to be blasphemous and compare myself to Jesus, but people who have access to information, it depends on their level of, I guess it would go back to ego. It would go back to ego.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. I could use this I can use this to glorify God.
Well, here's the thing that I got given right away. It's not about now. I mean, it's not about you. It's about now. This thing here is not about you. This gift that we gave you is not about. By the way, God is a we. I don't know why. Always referred to as we.
I like that.
So I always say them. Because God is not a singular unit.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's also biblical.
And so, no, I mean, what it is, it's about intent. Everything is about intent. And so I have been played with, and I have been taught, and I have been cajoled, and I've been helped. And I can say that humans are ridiculously weak and frail, and we love to lie to ourselves, and we love to do, it's infinite and ridiculous. And the one thing that gets in the way is it's the hubris. It's the entitlement. It's the, and it's our belief about ourselves is 100% what's in the way of us and spirit. That's it.
Yeah.
I once had the
completely.
hubris to ask God for the lottery numbers. I actually did. I said, God, if you want me to do this, you're going to have to pay me. And so I said,
Go.
God, give me the winning lottery numbers. And it was the Powerball and the Mega Millions. And so I listened and I got the winning. I wrote on each card, and they were reversed. They were the winning numbers.
The reverse.
But I had the winning numbers for the Mega Millions on the Powerball ticket, and I had the winning numbers. And I'm like, that was a really cute joke.
Good joke.
You. Thank you for that. But it was that you are being hubris. The hubris of this human is unbound. We must teach this person a lesson.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. I think we could go on talking for a long time. I'm wondering, one of the things that your assistant said you might be able to do is provide some quick energy hacks to help people feel better. Can you do something like that for people who are listening, watching?
I actually can. This is one of my favorites. Okay. We are built as bioelectrical systems, right? Otherwise, the machines the doctors use wouldn't work on us. Our brains generate electricity and our heart generates electricity. But most of us walk around kind of, and I'm going to say ungrounded, which is why everybody has these grounding sheets or grounding this or that, or, ground to trees. But I'm going to say I want an electrical ground and not a physical ground. So here's a quick little imaginary guide that people can do, and do it with me. And if for those of you who are listening, if you do it standing, you get a very clear connection. You really know. So close your eyes and imagine that you have an infinite extension cord inside your abdominal cavity with a very heavy plug at the bottom. And as you breathe in, that cord gets ready to release. And when you exhale, there's a trap door right in your pelvic floor that you can drop that cord. And it'll unfurl. Just let it unfurl and unfurl and unfurl. And when it gets to the perfect place, your perfect place, deep within the earth, it will plug in. And the moment it plugs in, it's like somebody turned off all the background noise. You just calm. You don't know what it is. You're just quieter. It's like there's been a noisy air conditioner running and it suddenly turned off. And if you've done it standing up, you'll notice you rock back on your heels. The first time you do it, it may take a little while for it to go down. Just keep letting it unfurl. And the more you do it, it just calms you. It just, I am fully connected. Now here's the next one. This is my favorite part. So once you have connected with the earth, you allow the earth energy to come up and mingle. And then I let it stop at my heart and then have it shine straight up through my body, all the way up, all the way up, all the way up till I connect with the light and with the spirit. I know I am connected with the light. I bring the light down and let it swirl in my heart, and I'm connected above and below. And it's like, there, that feels so much better because you were in full balance between heaven and earth energetically.
I love that. And when I watch this back, I'm going to do it myself. So thank you for that. So Sally, do you have anything else you'd like to say? We will have your website and any other links you have on the show notes. Is there any parting message that you would like to give my listeners?
Yes. Everybody has the ability to connect and to expand. The only thing that is in the way is your belief about all this energy is not available to you. That's it. As it starts right here. It starts inside.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, we are magnificent beings. We are magnificent beings, and just activate that and remember that, I just think that we would have such an amazing world. We have an amazing world now, but we could really create this consciousness of connection here on this planet. Do you believe that? Do you believe that we can create a consciousness of connection on the planet?
Oh, it's already here.
Yes, it is already here.
The
but
issue is not everybody wants to play with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Not everybody wants to play with us.
Yeah.
And it, unfortunately, most of the people in charge are at the level of me first, you second.
Mhm.
Otherwise, because the people who are in relaxed consciousness are like, yeah, sure, go for it. Whatever.
Yep.
But, this has been, we've talked about this for thousands and thousands of years. And it will continue to be this way as long as we don't all destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
But it's okay. It is all perfect.
It is okay. And your message about the death experience also reminds us that death is an experience of ease and grace, and it is not what we fear. Thank you, Sally.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing so
Thank
much
you.
about yourself. I've just loved our conversation, and I know you told me that you're writing a book, and so maybe we'll have you on back when it's time for your book to come out, and we can talk about that.
I would truly love that. I truly would.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be great.
Great.
If people want to get in touch with me, it's simply sallyreid.com. That's it.
That's great. All right. Thank you, Sally. And thank you, listeners. And I now close the Spiritual Forum.